In golf, there are moments that cross the line of respect and professionalism, explosive reactions, scenes of frustration, and attitudes that left the audience stunned. Today, we will revisit the most embarrassing episodes in this sport. And to begin, we travel to one of the most unusual moments you can witness in a professional tournament. The protagonist, Keith Mitchell. He steps onto the tee box, builds momentum, and strikes the ball. But the very instant the ball takes off, his expression says it all. The trajectory is a disaster. Rage takes over, and without holding back, he unleashes all his fury on the ground, slamming his driver down with such violence it looked as if the grass owed him money. What came next was almost cinematic. Just as the ball was still traveling through the air, a loud horn echoed across the course. Play was officially suspended. The scene was surreal. Mitchell throwing a tantrum while, at the same time, the entire tournament came to a halt. But the worst was yet to come, because that shot, as terrible as it was, counted. There were no mulligans, no replays. With a thread of hope, Mitchell asked his caddy whether the ball had managed to clear the hazard. The answer was crushing. No, it went into the water. Mitchell did not say a single word. He simply walked forward slowly, his face burning with anger, and once again smashed the club into the ground. What we witnessed was not simply frustration. It was a public display of lack of control and respect. A scene more fitting of a weekend amateur, yet unfolding at a top-level event in front of thousands of spectators and cameras from around the world. And so, our journey begins. And this is only number 15. Number 14. Oakmont is not just a golf course. It is a test of a player's soul. And that day, Shane Lowry learned it the hardest way possible. From the very first hole, everything turned into a slow-motion disaster. Bogey on 1, double bogey on 2, another bogey on 3. The tension built shot after shot until it finally exploded. An open microphone caught Lowry muttering words of frustration, making it clear he had already had enough. The pressure soon turned into anger. After missing yet another putt, he took out his rage on the green, forcefully striking the ground with his putter. His body language said it all. Get me out of here. Oakmont had broken him. But the most embarrassing moment was still to come. On the 14th hole, in a mistake so basic it is usually seen only in amateur tournaments, he picked up his ball without marking it. An absurd gesture that cost him a penalty. He would later describe it as the stupidest thing I've ever done on a golf course. Frustration completely took over. As he left the green, he vented his anger on a microphone, smashing it violently into the grass. It was the image of a defeated professional, not only on the scorecard, but in pride and composure. For Shane Lowry, Oakmont was not simply a challenge. It was a battlefield from which he emerged beaten, drained, and with an image far removed from the respect this sport demands. Number 13. Golf has always been defined by respect. Respect for the game, the course, and above all, fellow playing partners. Women's Open, Charley Hull decided to break that unwritten rule. Hull, known for her fast and direct style, was paired with Lexi Thompson and Nelly Korda. By the 8th hole, patience had run out. As Lexi took her time preparing for a putt, Charley made a firm decision. She would not wait any longer. She walked straight to the 9th tee, sat down, and made her message clear through her actions. This is too slow, and I'm not going to stand here watching it. The scene was so obvious it was impossible to ignore. Cameras caught her gesturing in annoyance, muttering under her breath, and speeding up her own routine as if she were sending a direct message to her playing partner. And she succeeded. Her silent protest went viral within hours, fueling headlines and debates across the golf media. Lexi later responded, stating that they had waited on every hole and had never received an official warning for slow play, but it was already too late. The image of Charley taking a stand with a sort of play faster or I'm leaving attitude had spread throughout the golf world. What should have been an example of elegance ended up looking more like a schoolyard drama, where patience and respect gave way to tension and controversy. Number 12. In golf, not everything is decided with clubs and balls. Sometimes, the fiercest battles take place in front of microphones. And in the lead-up to the grand final of the League of Golf, Brooks Koepka and Phil Mickelson delivered a showdown worthy of a boxing ring. Koepka, captain of the leading team, held a key advantage. He could choose his opponent from the other teams. Sitting across from him, wearing a confident expression, was Mickelson. As expected, tension ignited instantly. Phil, with his trademark ironic smile, fired the first shot. "Pick me. Let's have a rematch of the 2021 PGA Championship." A challenge loaded with history. Recalling the moment when he shocked the world by beating Brooks by 2 strokes. But Koepka was not about to let his opponent have the final word. He leaned into the microphone and replied with a direct hit to collective memory. "You probably wouldn't know, because you were never world number 1. Silence. Then, as a finishing blow, he added, "When you finish the year as number 1, they give you a trophy. I have 2. A true mic drop aimed straight at Mickelson's legacy. For years, Phil lived in the shadow of Tiger Woods, reaching no higher than second place in the world rankings. But if there is one thing that defines Mickelson, it is that he never backs down. He looked up at Brooks and delivered a reply as simple as it was devastating. "Nice green shirt. Do you have a green jacket?" "No, but I will." A masterstroke. If Koepka's words were a blow to pride, Phil's reference to his historic victory at the 2004 Masters was a verbal knockout. Number 11. To appear twice on this list, you have to do something truly striking. And Shane Lowry managed exactly that. At the PGA Championship, everything seemed to be going well after a solid drive from the tee. The ball landed in the fairway, but with a cruel twist of fate, it became embedded in another player's pitch mark. For a professional, that feels almost insulting, a harsh injustice dealt by the course. The officials were firm. There would be no relief, no drop. He had to play it as it lay. He protested, debated, and tried to convince them that he deserved different treatment. But the rule was clear, and the decision stood. When he finally struck the shot, the result was terrible. That was the moment he completely lost his composure. He slammed the ground in anger, tearing up the turf with such force that the frustration was unmistakable even from a distance. And there was more. After missing the par putt, he exploded verbally at the course and even made an obscene gesture toward the ball, as if it were to blame for everything. The scene was a collection of everything a champion should never show: arguing with officials, cursing the course, and behaving like a frustrated weekend amateur. A dark chapter in the career of a major champion. Number 10. The Masters at Augusta is synonymous with tradition, solemnity, and absolute respect. But what Jose Ballester, a 21-year-old making his debut in the tournament, did became marked as one of the most disrespectful episodes ever seen on that stage. It all began with a minor detail: an Arizona State Sun Devils cap, worn backwards. To some, a harmless gesture. To Augusta, a sacrilege. But that was only the prelude to something far more scandalous. At the legendary 13th hole, beside the famous Race Creek, Ballester felt the urgent need to use the restroom. And instead of walking a few seconds to the facilities, according to reports, he decided to do it right there in the most iconic stream in the world of golf. The same water that has witnessed triumphs and tragedies throughout Masters history turned into the setting for an incomprehensible act. The reaction was immediate, absolute outrage. On social media, fans called for his immediate disqualification. Some even demanded that he be banned from returning to Augusta. Comments like, "the most disgraceful gesture ever seen on this course," flooded forums. Ballester tried to downplay the incident, saying he had forgotten there were restrooms nearby, even joking that it was one of the few times he received applause that day. But it was far too late. The internet had already given him a nickname that will follow him forever: Ballester's Stream. At Augusta, some mistakes are forgiven, but this one will be very hard to forget. Number 9. The Ryder Cup is synonymous with intensity, passion, national pride, and an atmosphere that borders on the frenzy. But in 2016, at Hazeltine, that energy spilled over and crossed the line of respect. American fans packed the course, waving flags and chanting loudly, making it clear who ruled at home. For Rory McIlroy, used to pressure. It was nothing new. However, what he heard that day went beyond all limits. For hours, he endured taunts and remarks of every kind. Most of it, part of Ryder Cup folklore. But as he left the green on the 7th hole, one spectator hurled an insult so offensive and so repetitive that even Rory, usually unshakable, stopped dead in his tracks. He slowly turned, pointed directly at the offender, and without raising his voice or losing control, made his message perfectly clear. That man had to go. The spectator, still shouting, was escorted out of the venue in front of thousands of witnesses. The scene went down as one of the fastest and most public expulsions in Ryder Cup history. A televised walk of shame broadcast around the world, reminding everyone that there is a line that must never be crossed, even in the most passionate environment in golf. Number 8. With John Daly, you always know that anything can happen. And at the 2008 Australian Open at Royal Sydney Golf Club, he proved it once again with a scene that left everyone stunned. After a poor drive from the tee, his ball ended up in the rough near the 9th hole. Daly, already visibly irritated, walked among the trees trying to refocus. But at that exact moment, a spectator decided to get far too close. The man, identified as Brad Key, raised his camera just inches from Daly's face and fired the flash directly into his eyes. The reaction was instantaneous. Without saying a single word, Daly snatched the camera from his hands, lifted it, and smashed it against a tree with such force that the sound of the impact made the entire gallery turn around. The fan was left frozen, unsure how to react, and Daly, unfazed, simply looked at him and said, "Do you want it back? I'll buy you a new one." He later explained that the flash had momentarily blinded him, and that no matter if he had been 10 shots under par, he would have acted exactly the same way. Most surprising of all, he received no penalty whatsoever. The spectator was not authorized to have the camera that close, and therefore there was no fine, no disqualification, and no apology. Just a destroyed camera and another chapter added to the legend of one of the most unpredictable figures in golf history. Number 7. The Waste Management Phoenix Open is famous for its stadium-like atmosphere, with packed grandstands, loud music, and a crowd so noisy it sometimes feels more like a football match than a golf tournament. But in 2024, that festive setting became the stage for a moment of extreme tension involving Zach Johnson. During the final round, Johnson had to deal with the usual crowd remarks. This time, however, they were not light-hearted jokes. The shouts were personal, sharp, aimed directly at his reputation as Ryder Cup captain and at his most controversial decisions. The pressure built hole after hole, until, late in the round, someone in the gallery crossed the line. With his voice loud enough to cut through the murmur of the crowd, he exploded. "Enough! I've had it. Just shut up." Silence followed instantly. The tension was palpable. The scene, captured on multiple phones, went viral within minutes. After the round, far from softening his stance, Johnson was blunt. He stated that the crowd's behavior had been unacceptable and that in more than 20 years of his career, he had never witnessed anything like it. An episode that made it clear that even the calmest veterans have a breaking point. Number 6. The 2025 Players' Championship delivered one of the most tense confrontations Rory McIlroy has ever had with a spectator. As he walked down the fairway, focused and fully in control of his game, a fan decided to provoke him, not with just any comment, but with the most painful memory of his career, the collapse at the 2011 Masters. "Don't choke like Augusta. Do you still dream about those trees?" the man shouted from the gallery. The spectator, later identified as Luke Potter, a college golfer from Texas, did not stop there. He continued filming Rory on his phone from just a few meters away, pressing on the old wound. At first, McIlroy tried to ignore him, but the provocation went too far. Suddenly, he turned, walked decisively toward him, and without saying a word, snatched the phone from his hands. Then he turned around and walked away calmly, leaving the young man frozen, like a child caught mid-punishment. The moment was recorded by other fans and went viral within minutes. Social media exploded. Some criticized the spectator for such cruel taunting. Others questioned whether Rory had crossed a line by confiscating the phone. What became clear was that when the deepest wound of a champion is touched, the reaction can be as forceful as it is unexpected. Number 5. Golf is usually a sport of composure, but sometimes patience runs out. And that is exactly what happened with Ian Poulter at LIV Golf Houston 2024. After completing 18 holes under the oppressive Texas heat, Poulter was leaving the final green visibly exhausted. He had endured persistent comments throughout the day, murmurs and taunts that followed him hole after hole. But at the very end, one spectator threw out one last provocation, and it was the final straw. With his jaw clenched and eyes blazing, Poulter turned and snapped back. "Why don't you shut up for once?" The fan tried to brush it off, even telling him to relax. It was raw, bottled-up anger, a real release after hours of provocation. The final warning was clear. If it continued, the spectator would be removed without hesitation. In that moment, everyone understood this was not a simple outburst. It was the natural response of an intense competitor, shaped by Ryder Cup pressure and epic battles, who had reached his limit. When a player like Poulter, known for his combative character, demands respect from you, chances are you have earned that reaction the hard way. Number 4. The 12th hole at the Masters at Augusta is a mythical place, a setting of incomparable beauty and, at the same time, the site of true nightmares for the best players in the world. In 2024, it was Zach Johnson who ended up being swallowed by this legendary corner, and in the most uncomfortable way possible. First, a shot into the water at Race Creek. Then, a failed approach. And to top it off, a putt that refused to drop. The result? A triple bogey. Johnson left the green with his head down, shoulders slumped, visibly overwhelmed by the pressure. And then it happened. Just as he passed by the ropes, in front of a group of stunned spectators, Johnson exploded and shouted a word that was loud, clear, and completely out of place at an event like Augusta. His outburst echoed so strongly that many thought it was directed straight at the crowd. Phones did not capture what triggered the explosion, but they did catch the exact moment it happened. Within minutes, the video flooded social media and sparked a heated debate. Even golf influencer Paige Spiranak weighed in. "You can't yell at fans like that at Augusta. This isn't a college party, it's the Masters." Her post went viral with thousands of interactions, turning Johnson's tantrum into one of the most talked about moments of the tournament. What could have been just a bad day of golf ended up becoming an episode that called into question the behavior of a champion on one of the sport's most sacred stages. Number 3. Seeing punches thrown at a PGA Tour event once seemed unthinkable. But in 1994, during the NEC World Series of Golf, John Daly nearly created a scene more fitting for a bar than a golf course. In the middle of the final round, Daly, known for his aggressive style and unpredictable temper, decided to take too big a risk. Without waiting for the group ahead to clear the fairway, he hit his shot, and the ball landed dangerously close to Jeff Roth and his playing partners. Hitting into a group is one of those unwritten rules that is never broken in professional golf. Roth was furious, but before he could even confront Daly, someone unexpected appeared: his father. The man burst onto the scene as if it were a slow-motion brawl. He walked straight toward Daly and confronted him without hesitation. Shouting and shoving quickly followed, turning the course into a chaotic spectacle that stunned everyone present. And Daly, far from calming the situation, puffed out his chest and responded with the same intensity, further escalating the tension. The PGA Tour had no choice but to fine him $13,000 and suspend him for unsportsmanlike conduct. By then, however, the damage was done. The incident had made headlines and television broadcasts, confirming what many already suspected. John Daly didn't just play golf like a hurricane. He carried that explosive energy off the course as well. Number 2. At the 2019 President's Cup in Australia, tension was already in the air. Patrick Reed, marked by a rules controversy just a week earlier, had become the perfect villain for the local crowd. And Australian fans did not miss the opportunity. They booed him on every hole, on every shot, savoring every mistake. The hostility was such that it felt only a matter of time before something exploded. And it did. Though it wasn't Reed who reacted, but his own caddy and brother-in-law, Kessler Karain. According to him, a spectator had been harassing him relentlessly throughout the round. But as they walked off a green, the man made one more comment, this time more aggressive and direct. Karain had had enough. He suddenly turned and violently shoved the fan, without warning, without words. Just a pure physical reaction. Security stepped in immediately. The incident lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough for cameras and phones to capture it and spread it like wildfire across social media. The organization's response was swift. Karain was suspended for the final day, forcing Reed to play without his usual caddy. An uncomfortable outcome that highlighted how far crowd pressure can go and how fragile the thin line is between passion and loss of control. Number 1. In 2022, the BMW Championship in Wilmington, Delaware, became the setting for an episode that felt straight out of a Black Mirror storyline. The protagonist, Rory McIlroy, as he prepared for a crucial shot, and during the shouts of a particularly persistent spectator, something unusual caught his attention on the green. At first glance, it looked like a normal golf ball, until it started moving on its own. It wasn't rolling, but sliding erratically, as if it had a life of its own. The truth became clear within seconds. It wasn't an ordinary ball, but a remote-controlled one, operated from a distance by someone hidden in the crowd. The device began to zigzag, getting in McIlroy's line of play, chasing him like a robotic intruder designed to ruin the concentration of one of the best golfers in the world. The crowd, in complete silence, watched in disbelief, until Rory decided to act. In one swift motion, he lunged at the ball, grabbed it firmly, and without hesitation walked straight toward the nearest lake. With a sharp, decisive gesture, he threw it into the water, putting an end to the farce. The message was clear. In a sport built on tradition and respect, there was no place for that kind of provocation. A bizarre moment that, because of its strangeness and symbolism, became one of the most talked about and viral incidents in recent golf history. But we still have one more surprising moment left. Bryson DeChambeau, one of the most controversial and polarizing players on tour, was involved in a scene that ended with a lesson in respect during the final round of the 2021 PGA Championship. As he walked toward the 10th tee, surrounded by hundreds of spectators, DeChambeau decided to give a golf ball to a small child who was watching him eagerly from behind the ropes. A simple gesture that was meant to become an unforgettable memory for the young fan. However, just before the ball reached the child's hands, an older man lunged forward and snatched it out of the air. The child froze, his excitement instantly turning into disappointment. Bryson saw everything. He stopped, turned toward the intruder, and confronted him with an intensity that froze the scene. For a moment, it looked as if he might step into the crowd. The silence was total, phones recording every second, and the tension could be felt in the air. The man, embarrassed, tried to brush it off, but Bryson did not move an inch. The pressure became so uncomfortable that, after a few endless seconds, the spectator handed the ball back to the child. The boy smiled from ear to ear, and DeChambeau, with a small gesture of approval, continued on his way. A moment that showed that, even amid controversy, there are actions that define the true spirit of the sport. And so we reach the end of this journey through the most controversial, tense, and embarrassing moments in the history of golf. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next content. Thank you for joining us until the end. And remember, in golf as in life, true greatness is not measured only by victories, but also by how adversity is faced.